Alright, so this is Conspiracy Theories and Chill, and this is a weird episode because I am not at home. I am stuck at a hotel because of my job. I have to stay in a hotel tonight because we're getting snow. We're supposed to get maybe up to 12 inches of snow, and so my work put me up in a hotel, and I have to stay the night. And it's the first time in 5 years that I've been away from Bagels for the night, and so I'm pretty upset about that. But I'm going to push through. We got a show to do, and I have a video that we're going to watch together. This week it's going to be someone else's video again, and the reason for that is I didn't get one done. I had so much going on, and I picked a fun one though. It's on whether or not we're living in a simulation, and it's really short, and afterwards we'll hang out like normal and talk. There we go. All right. There I am. So how are you guys? Who's here? Let's see. Let's see who we got. Paul, are you still here? Steve? Steve, you were with us a minute ago. Let's see if you guys are still here. What'd you think of that video? What do you think of the simulation theory? You know, I think it's really interesting. I picked a short video because a lot of the videos on the simulation theory are a little long-winded, but it kind of needs to be. You know, I picked a simplistic view and explanation of the simulation theory for the video tonight. For those of you on YouTube, we watched a video on the simulation theory. And in the video, it talks about how Elon Musk thinks that there is a 1 in a billion chance that we are not living in a simulation. Not that we are not living in a simulation. That's crazy. And, you know, that guy in the video just argued that the math is on his side. I, on the other hand, failed Algebra 1 and 2, so I'm not somebody that you should ask about math. Oh, nice pop-up. Out of all the ones it could have been, I'm glad it was just that one. That was the most mild pop-up of all the ones that I get on my from my video converter. I get a lot of little Trojans and pop-ups and stuff from using my video converter. I need to find a better one that doesn't have as many bugs. But I started a little late today, and the reason was I'm out of my element. I'm not at home. I'm at a hotel. I had to stay at a hotel tonight because we got snow. It's snowing outside right now. It's probably had maybe 4 or 5 inches so far, but they're calling for about 12. And I live in Missouri, and that shuts us down pretty much because I live in a rural area in Missouri, so even more so it shuts us down. So I have to stay in a hotel room tonight so that I can be there to open the store in the morning. Because life isn't fair. Which brings me to my first little point I was going to bring up today. And go ahead and feel free to comment like crazy about things you want to talk about. Otherwise, it's going to be a short show because I don't have a lot of notes. I was busy. I had to drive to this hotel and get my stuff ready. I had to go home and get my stuff, bring it all back out here, and before the storm hit. So I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for tonight. But let me know what you think about the simulation theory. And if you want to kick that around a little bit more, we can go into that a little bit more. I don't know a whole lot about it. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of math. But I know there's a lot of scientists, mainstream scientists, not just Elon Musk, that are into this. There's one in particular who claims that he can prove it. I haven't really looked at his research because, you know, I haven't delved into it very deeply. I've just kind of surface glanced all this, but I saw that when I was looking for stuff to play for you guys, he was claiming to have proof. But what I was getting ready to talk about, but I think I'm going to wait a little bit because the person I wanted to talk to it about, let me start over again. The person that I wanted to be here while we talk about this, I don't think is here yet. So I'm going to give a little while for that person to show up. Um, so let's see. Nobody's commenting on anything yet. This is weird because I'm in a hotel room and it's a no smoking hotel. So this is the first time I've done a show in a long time where I couldn't smoke. You know, I'm already wanting a cigarette and I just had like 3. Right before the show, I smoked like 3 or 4 cigarettes all in a row. Went outside and sat in my car and just smoked, watched YouTube videos. But so I'm just a little out of it just from being in a strange place. I'm even worried that I'm being too loud. I would hope there's only seems to be like 5 cars in the parking lot, so I would hope that they spread us out. You know, I hope there's nobody right next to me. They might not like this show. They're next door, like, shut up. Because I've heard Bill Burr had someone complain. He does his podcast wherever he's at, the Monday Morning Podcast. I don't know if you ever heard that, but it's one I'd recommend. And he was doing his podcast from a hotel room, and they complained. The hotel called and complained, and he was being too loud. Well, let's see. Looks like nobody's really biting on the simulation theory. I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I get that what they're saying about it being probable, and it's creepy. It freaked me out a little bit in that video and the statistics that they show you in the video about whether or not you live in a simulation or not. Paul says I'm next door, bro. Oh, so we're good. We're good. But it's fascinating. It's a fascinating theory. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm not smart enough to know how I feel about it. I got to be honest about that sometimes. This is one of those times. It's crazy. I got to say, I hope we're not. Out of all the possibilities for what reality could be and the meaning of life and all of that, I really hope we're not a simulation. Like just some advanced civilization's version of The Sims. That would be sad. Steve says there are many new interesting theories, multiple universes, past and present happening simultaneously, etc. There's a lot being kicked around that, not that long ago would have been considered just crazy, is being talked about as if it's just mainstream now. These are far-fetched ideas not that long ago. Maybe people could explain this to me, but as someone who's religious, I happen to be Christian. I don't push that on anybody. But why do people think that, we can have multiple universes, we can have parallel universes, we can have inner dimensions, different, all this different stuff could be possibilities, but it's not possible that there could be a God. I don't understand that because it blows my mind. I don't know how you can be open to science, which is open to all these other possibilities, and not be open to the possibility that there's a, creator. That's just my personal opinion. But, most of the time when I get into discussions with atheists online, they are pretty brutal and treat you like you're stupid right off the bat just because you're religious. I don't understand why that is. Why is it any crazier than anything else? Paul says life is a simulation. Even if you believe in the Bible, it says we are. That we all have a plan and a purpose for what has already been planned. Whoa. I never realized that. I never spent a lot of time or put a lot of stock in the Bible. And the reason why is because I believe the Bible's been severely manipulated by man. And I'm really uncomfortable in this hotel room. I think there is somebody in the very next room. That would be crazy if you only had like 8 guests in your hotel and you booked them all in rooms right next door to each other? Hey, Nissa, is it morning where you are? Where are you, Nissa? If you don't mind me asking. Paul says Christ is king. Amen. Don't let that run you off if you're not religious. I'm not going to push it down your throat. This is not this kind of show. This is a conspiracy theories and chill show. But I am. You know, if that changes your opinion of me, then that's, I don't know, that's more on you than me. I can't have no control over that. I think I'm either paranoid or there's somebody in the next room. And weird noises. I think that's just odd with when you're I'm in a hotel, Nissa. I'm in Missouri in the United States. But tonight I'm at a hotel. I'm out of my element. I'm not at my desk. Austin, Texas? Oh, it's not morning then. What time is it? Well, I've given enough time for him to show up. Hopefully he shows up while we're discussing it, because I tried to have a rant show. He requested it last night, Clinton Gordon. I forgot to tag him in this one, but if he shows up, I was going to talk about the Alexandria Cortez. How do you say that? I even looked up how to say it, and I can't remember how. I don't know why it's giving me so much trouble. It's a simple name. It's just, there's so many, like, I don't know, there's too many twists and turns in it. It's a pretty name. I'm sorry the table's shaking so much. It feels really weird doing this in a hotel room. Everything around me looks really strange. There's a big old picture of the Capitol on the wall, like a huge picture. Everything else is really kind of janky. Oh, Mrs. says who was in Gazanga in the mid-90s, so that's why she says good morning. Right on. But I think I keep trying to talk about this. I'm going to go ahead and just dive right in. The 70% tax rate that Alexandria Cortez has put forth, and people talking about it's radical. I don't think it's radical at all. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think there's a lot of evidence for that, and that you can trace the decline of our country to the decline of the marginal tax rate, which has already been as high as 94%, but was 70% under Nixon. It wasn't that long ago that it was 70%, you know. Steve says Ocasio-Cortez. All right. But this particular person, since he's not here, I'll try to have his side of the argument for him. His claim is that that would destroy business. And I feel like that is part of the brainwashing that you've been subjected to, that businesses, if they need corporate welfare to survive, they shouldn't exist. That's plain and simple. And someone will rise up in their place to take their place. I said that wrong, but they will. No, I'm not really okay. Kind of bummed out. I guess it's coming across. I didn't want it to, but I did this because I have some kind of sense of normalcy. I wanted to do the feed because we always do one at 6:30 on Friday. And I felt like we should because we always do. And I wanted to do something that was normal, but I'm worried I'm going to get stuck in this hotel for a couple days if we really do get to 12 inches of snow, because where I live, that would shut us down and I would be stuck here. So I'm worried about that, and I'm just trying to get my mind off of it. So if you think of any conspiracies you want to talk about, anything in the comments that you guys want to say, that would really help me out because I feed off of your comments. So if you want to get the show moving into a different direction, because I keep trying to bring up topics and I keep getting distracted when I look around and it's just all strange settings. I just rather be home. You know what I mean? I look sad. I'm very transparent. I'm a very transparent person. I'm not very good at hiding my emotions. Steve says, even under Eisenhower, the rate was high for rich people. Do you know what that was? I think it was in the 60s, wasn't it? And I mean, in the rate in the 60%. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. It didn't dip. It didn't take a drastic dip until Reagan. And then the whole theory behind that was his trickle-down economics, that the rich that money would trickle down from the rich and benefit society. Well, that's not what happened. They moved that money and hid it offshore in their bank accounts so they wouldn't have to pay taxes on it. And they kept it all for themselves and gave huge bonuses to their CEOs for cutting workers and cutting conditions for workers and finding ways to streamline and make things faster and more efficient. Steve says 90% at the top under Eisenhower. And when was he president? Steve also says no place like home. I feel you, man. I just feel completely out of my element. And like I said, I hear weird noises every once in a while coming from the room next door. So I'm like, there's somebody over there. And I find that amazing because like I said before, there's 5 cars in the parking lot. So why would there be someone in the room right next door? But no, this guy, he thinks that would cripple business. And like I was saying, I think that that's part of the brainwashing where you've been conditioned to believe that they need those kind of tax breaks or they'll move to Mexico or they'll take their corporation somewhere else. That's just not true. It's not going to happen either. And you need to close, in, as well as enforcing the 70% marginal tax rate, you also need to close up these loopholes where they're able to hide their money offshore in foreign accounts or put fake residences in Delaware. There's different places you can do that in the states where you can hide your assets so you don't have to pay taxes on the money. And then another point of view that was brought up against my 70% marginal tax rate support is that taxation itself is theft and that taxation is illegal and that the 16th Amendment, and I wanted to look it up and learn about the 16th Amendment before the show because I knew I was going to bring it up, but I didn't. So if you're here and you understand it, then maybe you can fill us in. But from what I understand, due to the 16th Amendment, taxation as we know it is actually illegal. And I've seen people, and I almost played a video on this, I've seen people claim that you don't have to pay taxes, that you can stop paying your income taxes and they can't do anything to you, that there's no actual law that says you have to pay your income taxes. Steve says JFK got elected in 1960. Ike was the previous president. Oh, okay. And the rich bought the politicians, Steve says. Yep. Yeah, I think that the assassination of John F. Kennedy was the coup where they completely took over at least the established, the executive branch of our government. I think they had enough politicians in their pocket in the Senate and the House and lawyers and judges and all of that, but I think they fully took control of the executive branch when they assassinated John F. Kennedy. They may have had control of it before that, but that's when it happened. And then everything kind of changed and turned, especially with the economy ever since then. But I don't know how the rich have convinced people that they need to defend them. You know, it's like people act like they're just temporarily inconvenienced billionaires and that one day they're going to be super rich too, and they don't want taxation to be unfair on the super rich. And I don't see why taxation above a certain amount, and by the way, the 70% rate is only at above a certain amount. And you got to remember, they're still going to have all their deductions and all the ways that they hide money now. So they're not going to pay on most of their income anyway. Anywho, the other reason why I don't think it's unfair is they didn't amass that fortune. They are not able to make that kind of money on their own. They need to pay into society just like everyone else. I don't feel bad for them, but I have no empathy for the rich. So maybe I'm a bad person to ask about it because I don't tend to feel sorry for the rich at all. Let's see. I've been going for about a half hour. I swear I hear someone at the door. It's probably just down the hall or something. Just weird sounds. Just I'm not used to it. Strange place. What else do you guys want to talk about tonight? Anybody have any conspiracies they'd like to get into? This is a participation show, so I feed off your comments. Anything you guys bring up and make me be able to go a little longer and talk about some stuff. Another thing I talked about in the rants yesterday was the wall. Sorry, Trump's wall, and how little sense that I thought that makes. You know, maybe somebody's here that thinks the wall does make sense. I'd love to hear from somebody who disagrees with me on the wall. We tried to get Trump supporters to come to last night's feed, but it didn't work. Nobody really came, and I don't want them to come to make fun of them. I really want them to come just so I can have an actual discussion. I'm fascinated by people who believe in this wall, and most of them that I've talked to tend to believe in it because they believe Trump is some sort of hero that is trying to stop sex trafficking and child trafficking and all of that with this wall. Yeah, and this says fuck the orange Hitler. You got to be careful with that though. Like I don't want to be one of those people that is just so triggered by anything Trump. There was a long time, I'll be honest, that I didn't even like saying his name. I'm still upset that he's president. I still don't like that he's president. It bumps me out. Just saying it. Just saying it now bumps me out. But it's a fact. I know how it happened. And, you know, in my small way, I'm responsible in my way for it. It's what would happen if I stood my ground. I knew that. Not that Hillary had any chance where I live anyway. I happen to live in a red state surrounded by morons. So there was no chance here for her anyway. Trump won my district by 3,000 votes. There's only probably 4,000 people in this town. Nissa says trying to keep us in. Always, always. I gotta keep you here. I don't want to be lonely. You know, and this feed's over. It's just me in this empty hotel room. I don't even know what I'm gonna do or what I'm gonna get for dinner. And then I gotta get up and go to work in the morning. And I don't even know if I'm gonna get to go home after. But I'm only walking distance away from the store. Our parking lots touch where the hotel I'm at. Oh, Nissa says the wall is to keep us in. Yeah, That's what happened with the Berlin Wall. It started to keep one side out, but then at a certain point, it was to keep the other side in, from getting to the other side, and history repeats itself. You don't learn from it, you're doomed to repeat it. Steve says at least AOC got people talking about it. She has over 2 million Twitter followers. That's why the establishments fear her. Same reason they fear Bernie. People listen to her. And you're right. It's got the mainstream. You're hearing it on the news, even though they're calling it a crazy, radical idea. And Anderson Cooper's all, how would you pay for it? You don't ever see him sit there and ask that when we're talking about wars or military budget or any of that inflated spending. You don't ever hear him ask, how are we going to pay for it when we're talking about all of that? Just when we're talking about things that these rich elitists consider entitlements. Or when you're talking about cutting into their money. Anderson Cooper happens to be one of the people that would be affected by the 70% marginal tax rate. But on the other hand, he's just a paid talking head shill. So I really don't feel too sorry for him in the long run. You know what I mean? Nissa says you might buy a car tomorrow. Really? What kind of car? Any car? Or you got a certain car in mind? Is money an object? That's the main question. Steve says, why'd you get a non-smoking room? I didn't get to pick the hotel. Like I said, I'm walking distance from the store, and they booked the hotel, and this whole hotel is non-smoking. There's not a smoking room. Sucks. You gotta go outside to smoke. But this says Buick 2005. I wish. Oh, money not being an object. Doesn't everybody? Wouldn't that be neat? What's that got to feel like? I think that's the thing that fascinates me about the super wealthy the most, is what does it got to feel like to not worry about money? I've never known what that felt like. Ever since I've understood money and I've had responsibilities, I've never known what it feels like to not worry about money. I would love to know what that feels like. That would be the thing that fascinates me the most about the wealthy. $1,600, she says. Cheap cars here for old ones, because up in Spokane, expensive. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird how that works, isn't it? You gotta watch all that, especially with buying cars. Buying cars is difficult. You gotta be, especially a used car. If you're buying used cars, you gotta be. One, you need to know something about cars. Or you're going to get taken. If you don't know at least basic way around a car, you're going to get taken for a fool. I would never try to go. I don't know anything about cars. I would always take someone with me that knows about cars, or at least take that thing to a shop on your test drive. You can do that. You probably need to arrange it with the shop beforehand, but you can do it. You don't have to tell the dealership. Just drive right over to the shop, have them do an inspection on it, take it back. But, it ain't free. You have to pay for it. But it's worth it in the long run. You'd rather pay to have an inspection done on the car or find out it's a lemon and you're stuck with it. Let's see. So go ahead and talk about anything you guys want. In the meantime, we'll stick with something that Nissa said earlier. 5G. I've made a couple 5G videos. I could probably make a longer one. I've made a real short one and about a 12-minute one. I think I could do another one at about a half hour, because there's just a lot involved in this 5G. And if you don't fully know about 5G, I'll explain it like you don't know. Most people here probably know. I see a lot of regulars, so you probably already know about 5G, but this is for the people that don't. it's going to be the new frequency that cell phones are going to operate on, that they're rolling out nationwide. So they're going to put up 300,000 new towers. And the reason they got to put up so many towers is that this frequency doesn't travel as well as 4G. It's stronger, but it doesn't travel as well. So it requires more towers by a lot. And then they want this to be everywhere because they want America to be one of the first countries to be fully 5G, to be fully on board with 5G. So this is going to be everywhere in rural areas and city areas. There's going to be these towers everywhere. And they can even get small towers. They can make small towers that they put on top of street signs and street lamps and stop signs, all kinds of stuff. And they just little towers inside of subdivisions. So you're going to be exposed to these 5G frequencies. Now, these 5G frequencies are already used by the military. These are weaponized frequencies. They have harmful effects on humans, and they also have harmful effects on rats. In the tests that have been done, you know, there's not much testing. Actually, I can't think of the name of it right now. The organization responsible for protecting us from these kind of things. What the hell? I played a video clip. I hate when that happens. I hate when you lose something. I can see it in my head. I just can't grab it. It's right there. Steve says the Verizon 5G vans are all over my neighborhood. Yeah, yeah. You're going to be seeing that everywhere. And towers going up too. And especially these mini towers, because, you know, from what I understand, it's going to be mostly the minis. You know, the things that are on building rooftops and street signs. Anyways, you're going to be exposed to these frequencies everywhere you go on a much greater level than you are the 4G that you are exposed to now, which is also harmful. You know, these frequencies and things you're exposed to, these are of course messing with your body. Your body operates on frequencies as well, especially your brain. So it can be manipulated by frequencies. Nissa says, thank you, Sean. You're welcome. I don't know what you're thanking me for, but you're welcome. Nissa says, trash everywhere, fucking plastic shit. I'm not ordering from Amazon. Too much waste. I've never ordered anything from Amazon. Are they excessive with their packing materials? I've never heard anything about that before. But I definitely wouldn't recommend using Amazon as a company. And something else interesting that I've been seeing is Jeff Bezos is going through a divorce. That is going to be a huge divorce settlement. Hey, Lori, how you doing? Oh, Nissa says, thank you for being cool. You're welcome. I can't help it, really. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not that arrogant. Oh, Nissa says Amazon Prime. Hemp can be used for many things, Steve says. Oh, and Nissa was also talking about hemp. Hemp is amazing. I've made a video on why cannabis is really illegal. And hemp was also it was set to replace timber in the timber industry. But William Randolph Hearst ran a smear campaign against hemp and convinced people that it was, used marijuana to convince people that hemp was bad. Hemp is a marijuana, or cannabis. It's a cousin of cannabis. It doesn't even have the substance in it that gets you high. It doesn't have the hallucinogen in it at all. But it's a very useful plant. It has thousands of uses. It makes the best rope. You can make clothes from it. You can make paper. You can do all kinds of things, fuel. It has tons of uses. But it would threaten the timber industry. And I don't know if that's still an issue to this day. You know, you'd think it wouldn't be. You would hope it wouldn't be. Because, hell, we're destroying most of the world's timber, right? but there can't be that much money left in it anymore. You would hope, but maybe there is. But it doesn't have to be going on. You don't have to be cutting down the trees. And, we're messing with the environment when we do stuff like that. We're always messing with stuff we shouldn't be messing with. Well, it looks like we got a couple people still here. I've been going about 45 minutes. We can keep going. I really don't want to wrap up. As much as I want a cigarette, I don't want to wrap up, because once I wrap up, I don't know what I'm doing with the rest of my night, which is kind of sad. Steve says he thinks that they need 5G for the driverless vehicles. Maybe. They definitely want, it will definitely give them a strong grid for those type of things. And it'll also open up a lot of possibilities for AI, which Elon Musk has expressed a lot of fear about that as well, and actually says that we're already past the threshold and that there's no stopping it. And he says that if we don't at least merge with the machines, that we probably won't survive it. Lori says, it's so sad mankind progressed in the most harmful ways instead of keeping more natural ways and listening to guys like Tesla. Yeah, people like him. Tesla was a brilliant man, and he was suppressed. He was suppressed and also used. The government wanted his technology. They wanted his research. They wanted what he had to offer, but they didn't want to give him for it. They didn't want to advance his ideas, that not even credit. He wanted to give these things to humanity, the free energy and all of that. The government wasn't having that. Not the government, but the powers that be, those that really control everything. They had to suppress Tesla. They can't let somebody like that run wild and let their ideas come to fruition and let people realize that, no, you don't have to milk you dry for this. This is everywhere. It's surrounding you, and it can be harnessed and used wirelessly. And it was figured out all the way back in Tesla's time. And it's been recreated today. There's a company in Texas that built a Tesla tower, and they claim it works. They're going to build a bigger one. Lori says, smoke it while we talk. You smoke it for me. I can't smoke. This is a non-smoking room. I'm in a hotel room. I'm not at home tonight. I got snowed in, and I got put up in a hotel by my work. I have to stay in this hotel room tonight, and then I can hopefully go home tomorrow. We're supposed to get like 12 inches of snow, though. I don't know if it's still snowing, but it was snowing its ass off a minute ago, or right before I started this show. I don't know if it's still snowing now or not. I hope it's not. I hope it stops. We probably got about 4 or 5 inches so far. This is says smoking the tweed. Go ahead and do that too. Do that for me. Think of me. Send it to me telepathically. Send it to me over the internet. This says the R. Kelly diversion. I haven't been following that at all. I don't know anything about that. Like, I don't watch any mainstream media, so I'm behind on some things sometimes. I'm aware that they've been talking about R. Kelly again, but I don't know much about it. I know that it's been a long time, since he was first on trial for that. I didn't even know what happened to that. It fizzled out. The whole story just fizzled out. I don't remember hearing much about it at all after you heard about it at first. And now this is what, a rehash of that? I don't even know. Lori says, which city? Which city do I live in? I live in a little town called Bowling Green in Missouri. I don't know if that's what you were asking about or not. Probably shouldn't have said that on the internet. Somebody's going to come and kill me now. And be like, you're that guy who said Trump's wall is stupid. And I don't think it's stupid at all. Like, I've had enough of your shit. All right. So let me know what you guys want to talk about. We'll go for a little longer if you want. Like I said, I don't want to wrap up as much as I want a cigarette. I'm going to have to just walk over to McDonald's, get me a couple fish sandwiches, and go to bed. Nissa says, I sent you a fatty. I think I feel it. I think I felt it. Steve said, what about the big donor to Dems that keeps having dead black men found in his apartment? Some friends are protesting there tonight. That's a fascinating story. Why don't I know about that? How'd you let me not know about that, Steve? It's kind of your fault. No, that's fascinating. I did not know about that either. I've been very busy this last couple of weeks. I didn't know. I must have missed a lot of stuff. You like that hillbilly accent? It's been well broken in. I grew up in Kentucky. I spent most of my life in Kentucky, really, and I moved here when I was 18. I was born here, and but from 6 years old to 18 years old, I grew up in Kentucky. So I was around a lot of that accent. Steve says their fish sandwich is good. I know, right? I like the double, actually. I lied when I said I was going to get two, right? Even though it's 2 for $5 right now, at least where I live. Have you ever heard Bill Burr's joke about McDonald's? Where it has to do with the government too. It goes, have you ever noticed every time the government fucks up, McDonald's has a new sandwich? Is it a coincidence? Or is McDonald's in on something? Is the McRib coming out to distract us as well? This is roomies with 2 wolfies. Steve said it happened a few miles from me. Oh, this is local news for you? That's crazy. Lori says she has a Texas twang. I love Southern accent, especially on women. I think it's cute. I used to have one, actually. And I rocked it. It has since gone away. I've been living in Missouri long enough that I think I sound pretty plain. I do still say y'all. But y'all is a keeper. It's such an efficient word. It's almost my favorite word, but the F word is probably my favorite. I try not to say it as much when I'm on the feed, but it's such a versatile word. The F word is a very good word. It has many uses. Oh, I was going to bring that up. Steve just said Tulsi Gabbard has announced she's running for president. How do y'all feel about that? How do y'all feel about that? And bonus question, do you think Bernie will still run with Tulsi having announced that she's running? All right. I'm going to give y'all a second to answer that. So what I want to know is how you feel about Tulsi running for president, for one. Whether or not you support her or not, just give me somewhere to know where I'm at. And I'll tell you my view too. And then 2, do you think Bernie will announce that he's running now that Tulsi's announced that she is? Nissa says, fuck it. I got you. I'm just kicking it around for fun. I'm just trying to go on a little longer. Oh, Steve, they can make it a double. Oh, yeah, they can. You got to order it. Just ask for a double fish fillet. It's on the it's a main menu item. They just don't tell you about it. Nissa says she's good. I want Bernie. Lori says she won't win. I want Bernie too. I like Tulsi, and I've seen people writing articles talking about how, well, she might have been announcing she's running. She's shooting for vice president, and she may be shooting to be Bernie's vice president. I don't know. But I'm wondering if, with Tulsi announcing, that Bernie will feel like, well, there's a progressive candidate for them. I don't need to run. they can vote for Tulsi. She has integrity. I believe in Tulsi. You know what I mean? And maybe just throw his support behind Tulsi instead of running for president. That's my fear now. If I didn't think Tulsi wouldn't do that, I would think that's why she's running for president, is to block Bernie Sanders. But I don't think that's why. But I wonder if A, he will still run with her running, and B, if they even talked about or discussed this beforehand, because she may just be running to end up being his vice presidential candidate or his vice presidential pick. But it's really looking like the Democratic Party is going to look like the Republican Party in 2016. There's going to be like 12, 13 people standing on that stage. Steve says they could both run and team up later. Very true. That's what I was just kicking around with her being the VP choice. This has said, I've had a day. Bitch at work wanted to come in at 12 p.m. instead of 10 a.m. Okay. I had an interesting day at work too. And it was interesting for a couple reasons. It was interesting because I was dealing with the knowledge that I was and I now had to stay overnight and basically at work, and just so I could be there in the morning, and I'm worried I'm going to be stuck here for more than a day. And then on top of that, I'm having to break that to Babus, who's pissed at me because she wants me to come home, just like I want to come home. So she's mad at me. She's talking to me through Messenger, and I'm at work. So I'm working all through this. It's just, I had a stressful day. This says smoke trees. I hear you. I hear you. You gotta do it for me. You gotta do it for me. Steve says, like the enchilada at Taco Bell, not on the menu and their best item. I have never heard of the enchilada, so I need to order me an enchilada and you get a double fish. This says, who thinks that Trump will win again? Do we have a chance? I think it doesn't look that bad for him right now. If something doesn't really straighten up and turn around, if they don't run a legit primary, if the Democratic Party, it's all up to the Democratic Party at this point. If they run a repeat of the 2016 primary and try to rig it for their candidate, then yes, I believe Trump will win. If they push through a corporate Democrat like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Cory Booker, I think Trump would win. Trump would beat any of those people. I think the only person that beats Trump is Bernie Sanders. My personal opinion, I'm being realistic. I think you need a populist to beat Trump. You need somebody that's going to get people interested in voting. People were sending a message with the election of Trump, and not everybody was burners. We were a strong percentage of it, but there were a lot of people that are just disenfranchised by the entire system. And we're just like, fuck it, let's watch it burn. Lori says, and they will pick out of 12, the DNC does it. Yeah, no, I get you. She says, I can't trust our voting booths. These Diebold voting machines are a big problem in our democracy. These things are easily hacked. Look it up. I mean, you can look a lot of evidence on how easy these things are to hack. And that's what we use to count and collect our votes. And there's just so much wrong with our whole election process. It needs a full revamp and full overhaul. You could go on and on about the election process in this country and what's all wrong with it. But what she's talking about is the DNC is going to pick the nominee. They argued in court that they can pick the nominee in the back room over cigars if they choose. There's no real laws for them. They're more like bylaws, more like group rules. They don't have to follow them. They can do whatever they want. And that is fact, and that is true. But the reason I will still support Bernie Sanders if he runs, and Tulsi if he doesn't, so far out of the people that have announced, is because I have to have some kind of hope that the system can be changed. And the only way outside of a revolution, if we're not going to rise up and flood the streets, and by the way, I saw a fact that only take 3.5% of us. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I meant to find out. If someone can correct me, but it only takes 3.5% of the population to rise up and overthrow their government. That was on Uber Facts. I saw it shared to Facebook, and I don't know if it's true or not. Lori says they gave Stein 1.5%, and we had way more, at least 4%. I don't believe at all that Jill didn't at least get 5%. I think Jill got 5% easy. I think enough of us went to Jill that she got at least 5%. There was a lot of us. We were a large force, and not all of us were on board with the Bernie or bust. You got to remember that. A lot of us went with, not a lot, but a large number went with Bernie and backed Hillary so that Trump would lose. But enough of us stood our ground. That was a smaller number than the huge number of Bernie supporters. There was still a lot of us left, way more than 4%. I think around 7%. I bet if it was honest elections, you would see that Jill pulled in about 7%. Lori says the yellow vests have more than 3.5%. Yeah, and it's working. That's why it's working. So maybe it is a legitimate stat. Maybe you only need 3.5% of the population to rise up. But my point was, if we're not going to do that, then voting is our only way out of this. It's our only way to do anything outside of protesting, rising up, and you got to do all of that. You got to spread the truth. I think you got to vote. And we have to make it known that we know what's going on. And when we see something shady again, we need to rise up like crazy. Without the rising up, nothing's going to change. If they see that we'll just lay down and take it, they're going to keep feeding it out. There's no reason for them not to. They will keep taking advantage of us as long as we allow them to. Our silence is consent. That's part of their rules. That's the way they look at it. If we're silent and complacent about it, then we consent to it. Now, I know I don't consent, so we either have to do something, have active activism, and voting, and participating in democracy, and be willing to rise up when this happens again. We should have rose up when they rigged this 2016 primary. Philadelphia should have been flooded with people. That's what really should have happened. As much as we wanted Bernie to save us, Bernie couldn't have saved us. It was on us to save us, and he told us that 1,000 times. He can't spell it directly out for you that, hey, if you don't rise up by the millions, well, he did say it just like that if you don't rise up by the millions, no change will ever take place. So I guess he can spell it out for you, and he did thousands of times. It was our responsibility to rise up. And I'm just as guilty as any other American that should have rose up. I understand why we couldn't do it. We're burdened with responsibilities, and it's all by design. How come it's just now showing me who's watching? I don't know if any of these people are still here, but I'm going to say hi to you just because it just showed me your names. So, hey, Randy, Harmony, Paul, David, Harsh. Hey, Harsh. That's cool. I watch his videos. I had that happen to me recently, too, with another guy who I met through watching their videos. So that's neat that Harsh was here. I hope he's still here. So I like his videos sometimes, and he does a little good interviews and stuff like that. Does a lot of live feeds on Facebook. This says she wrote in Bernie. I voted Jill. I figured, either way, where I live, that was going to be a throwaway vote. But I wanted it to mean something, and I was kind of hoping that it could give a little push at least towards Jill making it to the 5% mark that she needed. And so that's the way I went. But that was my idea of burning a bus. I know a lot of people took it seriously, that you had to vote, either not vote at all or write in Bernie. But I wanted my vote to mean something. So I wanted it to at least go to supporting the Green Party. Steve says he thinks Jill got 10%. I'm telling you, I think it's at least 7. So I would have no trouble getting on board with 10. It could definitely be as high as 10. Lori says they published the actual numbers from our precinct. It said 0 for Jill. I know personally of at least 8. I didn't bring that up yet, but in my precinct, same thing. Me and my wife both voted for Jill. Showed 0. That's fascinating. See, now it's just not showing me Steve is here. So why is it just not showing me that? Steve's been here almost the whole show. But hi again, Steve. How you doing, man? So let's see. Lori says the whole system is corrupt. The whole system is corrupt. But if we don't take in, it's been allowed to become that way because of our complacency. If you're really honest with yourself, we are responsible for the way that things are. And it's an uncomfortable truth when you start thinking about it that way. But if we don't rise up and do our responsibility, without us doing that, there's nothing stopping them. Do you see what I mean? It is completely corrupt. But as long as we tolerate it, we're allowing it to happen. Yeah, Lori says that's the real problem. And the only solution is for us to do something about changing it. And most of the people I see here do that, at least spread truth and awareness and try to do something to change the world. But we need more people to get on board with that. And they're going to have to get on board with some uncomfortable truths. And that's why I think a show like this is important, because it helps ease people in to maybe being able to listen at least to some things they may have been told as crazy, which aren't crazy at all. When you start really seeing what's going on in the world, you realize it's not crazy at all. Lori says it was double heartbreak after Bernie thing when they gave Joe 1.5%. You're not kidding. That was a kick in the throat. I agree with you. Like I went through all of it together with you. I know what you're talking about. It was like a kick in the throat when they, try to tell you that Jill only pulled in 1.5% after what they did with Bernie. But I don't know. I guess I was more prepared for that. Be ready for them to do that. I was more hurt by the Bernie thing. I think I was already so hurt by that I didn't even feel the Jill thing. It took me a while to get over what happened with Bernie. It took me a while to be able to come to an understanding on what happened with Bernie. Lori says, I want to be in France right now. I kind of do too. I would love to be part of something like that. I would love to see it happen here. It's what needs to happen. You really want to talk about what needs to happen. The only thing that's going to bring real change is for there to be a revolution and for people to rise up and demand it. That's the only way it's going to happen. That's the only way that changes ever happen. Nissa says the planet is pissed since we got Trump. Ever see anything like this? No, I haven't. The whole Trump presidency is crazy. And my favorite part of it is the establishment's reaction to it, which has been this Russiagate nonsense and this mass hysteria in the media with the Trump derangement syndrome. And they got everybody convinced that Trump is just the Antichrist and just everything he does is evil. Even when he does something good, like withdraws troops from Syria, you have people even on the left rising up. Oh my God, I can't believe Trump's pulling troops out of Syria. How are you against that? Steve says, I bought a vest and nobody's showing up. Americans, I think, are the most brainwashed and the most dominated of any peoples on the planet. I think we are the most enslaved, and it's funny that we think we're the most free. You know, I hate to have to say that, but I think that we are convinced of a reality that just does not exist. Some to a dangerous level, but all of us in some way. You know, you're conditioned and indoctrinated since birth to believe that reality is one way when it's actually a different way. Everything in this world is inverted. This is the age of deceit. Lori says she's a quarter French. That's cool. I don't know enough about my heritage. I've never really been into finding out. I guess I could if I wanted to. Oh, Babels is here. Hey, how you doing? How's work? Did they call? Nissa says also 50% work for the government and or get a check, too afraid to speak up. Yeah, there's that too. There's fear. But I think the most of it is just complacency and just willful ignorance. Just keeping your head down and minding your own business and just like, well, there's nothing I can do about that. I'm just going to worry about the things that I can have an effect on. When you realize, when you're failing to realize rather, is that that's what's allowing it to happen. You know, too many people are turning the other way and looking away from what's really going on, and that's what's allowing it to run wild. You know, there's a quote, it's probably from the Bible, but I know it from the movie Boondock Saints, that the world will not be undone by evil men, but by good men who watch evil being done and do nothing to stop it. That couldn't be more true of anything I've ever heard. That's probably one of the truest things I've ever heard. That is what the true evil is watching evil take place and not doing or saying anything about it. Lori says most Americans don't even know Standing Rock happened. You're right, because the media in this country is not real media, and if you don't seek it out for yourself, then you're not even going to find it. Like, that's what's frustrating about being one of the people that, you know, are woke or whatever. You have all this knowledge that you've went out and searched for on your own, and you realize it's possible to do, but these other people are turning on the news and just filling their mind with a bunch of bullshit and garbage. And I don't know about you, but at least I can see why they might want to do that, but they've got to come out of it. And it gets frustrating sometimes because you wonder, what's it going to take for people to wake up? What would it take to make people become aware of what's really happening around them? Oh, I guess Babels couldn't talk much. They must not have closed. She must be working. She has to work tonight. Lori says 1984 actually happened in 2019. We are basically living in 1984. It's creepy how right he was, you know, when you think about it. He got a lot right about the future and about things that wouldn't end up being, but he missed it in a few little details. He missed it by the date, and then he also missed, I think what he failed to realize was how much we would embrace the technology and the surveillance and all of that. I didn't think he realized how much we would crave it, buy the newest one, all of that stuff, have 3 or 4 different versions of surveillance in my house, you know, have an Amazon Echo and all of that stuff. Oh, baby was mad at me. She doesn't understand there's a time delay. She's telling me, hold on. That bums me out. If you're still here, Babels, there is a time delay of about 10 seconds. So when you say something in the comments, I don't see it for about 10 seconds. And sometimes I do miss comments, but the last time I saw your comment, I did say hi. Feel bad now, but I did. Hey, Rose. about Tulsi running in 2020? Or what do you think about that? Since you're here and we didn't get to ask you earlier, I was asking people what they thought. And then if you think that Bernie will still announce with Tulsi having announced. Lori says most people don't know who Julian Assange is. Most Americans are clueless. They are. And that's one of the first things that needs to change. And the most important thing we can do is to break the brainwashing and the spell that's cast over all the people in this world and this society by the media. That's a big task, because they've been raised and conditioned and indoctrinated to trust that as truth. And it just cannot be trusted anymore as truth. It is wall-to-wall propaganda and bullshit. And that's just a fact, and it's used as a weapon against you. Rose says she thinks it's good that Tulsi's running. I think it's a good thing too. I mean, it's going to make the race exciting. I think there's going to be like 15 people up there on that stage when it first starts up in the Democratic side. It's going to look like the Republicans did in 2016. It's going to be a train wreck at first, but I really, it's exciting that Tulsi has announced. I just wonder how that will affect whether or not Bernie announces. Because, you know, I feel like he would run because he would feel like he was the best and only one to beat Trump. I think that's the only reason why Bernie would run for president at this point. So if he thinks Tulsi could beat him, maybe he wouldn't run. But I don't know how much faith I have that Tulsi could beat him. But I've also never seen Tulsi Gabbard run for president. So I would have to see what her campaign looks like. So it may be really exciting. There's a lot that may be getting ready to pop off that might be really exciting with all this. Lori says she was raised on Walter Cronkite as a kid. Yeah, news used to be news. There was a time, and it wasn't that long ago, where you could trust the news. But that time has passed. You know, Sabu, and people need to realize that. And until people do, they're not going to realize that they're being lied to on a massive scale. You've got all these hurdles to overcome. That's your first major one. Until that happens, they're not going to be open to hearing the truth, because they haven't even accepted that what they believe is all lies. It's so overwhelming sometimes when you think about it. Sometimes it really seems like there's nothing that we'll be able to do. Lori says everyone believed every word he said. Walter Cronkite? Oh yeah. Yeah, he was very good at his job. But I believe he had integrity, you know. The media hadn't been infiltrated yet. The media was infiltrated by the CIA. This is known, and you can look this up. It's called Operation Mockingbird. It happened in the CIA infiltrated the media and inserted agents into roles as writers, journalists, reporters, to lead and direct and steer the narrative, all the way back in the 50s. So go ahead and give that a quick Google, Operation Mockingbird. You'll find out that I'm not lying to you, that you cannot trust the media. No matter how much you may think you can or want to believe you can, because it's more convenient to be able to just turn on your TV or pick up the paper and go, okay, that's what's happening in the world. This is what I need to be worried about, when really you're just getting tricked and distracted and made to look away from what's really going on and what's really important in the world, like issues like Standing Rock, which was completely buried by the media and wasn't even reported on at all. Lori says, I'm 58 now. The country has made a sad decline in my lifetime. Yeah, you've seen a lot. You've seen the whole dip. Because I think, and if my theory is correct, the executive branch of the government taken over during your lifetime in '63, and then you were there for. I'm not that good at math, so let me see if I get this right. I know you were there for the '63 thing, but were you there for the '57 thing? I don't even remember what I was talking about anymore. Steve says he turned against the Vietnam War. The country went with him. Kennedy? Steve says if Bernie doesn't run, I'm all in for Tulsi. But does anybody have an opinion on whether or not they think Bernie will still run with Tulsi running? Do you think that even has any effect on Bernie at all? Do you think it's a non-issue, or do you think he's considering it now? Like, oh, well, she's running. Because I think there's already a strong progressive if you got Tulsi, and I could see him going, okay, this gives me the opportunity to bow out gracefully. You know, but I think he would only do that if he thought Tulsi could actually win. Lori says you saw him. Okay, did you get to ever see him in person? Like be able to go to a speech, for instance, or a rally, or you were just around while he was in the news? You may have a fascinating story. Oh, you were 8 when he was shot. But that's wild, you know, that you have memories of him, real memories, instead of just memories from historical shows and documentaries, that actual experiences where you remember. Oh, the Vietnam War on TV every night. Yeah, it was a weird time, probably. That would be crazy. What were they telling? Now that you have the benefit of hindsight, how much truth were you getting on the TV about the war? Like, what would you say the percentage of truth? All the way back in, you know, the Vietnam War was what, in the 70s? So all the way back then, what would you say the percentage of truth was on the media? Nissa says she saw Bernie in 2016. No shit. I would have loved to have been at a Bernie rally. Those seemed like they had so much energy and excitement. That would have been really neat to be a part of that. Nissa says the Chicago riots. Yeah, that would have been wild too. You lived through a lot of stuff. Nissa says 58 also, 1960s vintage. There you go. Lori says I was a nerd that watched the news and read Life magazines. You say there was a lot of truth to what they reported? Isn't that wild? Just in what, 40 years, the decline? Because it's not like they stopped reporting on war. It's just they stopped reporting on it honestly. Lori says they showed our kids getting slaughtered. Oh my God. That's much different than today. You saw Hillary at a rally? Mrs. says she saw Hillary in Phoenix. What was that like? Lori says they even showed the slaughter they were doing. Yeah, that's very different than today. But I feel like I gotta patch things up with Babas because she thinks I was ignoring her during the live feed. So I gotta get off of here and wrap up, even though I could keep going because, like I said, now it's just me and these walls. But I gotta talk to Babas and try to make things a live feed. But thank you guys so much for coming. And hopefully this was an entertaining show. It got kind of sad at a certain point because, like, I don't know if you knew this or not, or if you just joined us, I'm at a hotel tonight. I'm not at home. So I'm out of my element. I'm missing Babels. And I, you know, just, it's all around bad. But hopefully we came up with enough of a good show for you that you'll come back and see us again next Friday at 6:30 p.m. We'll be doing another one of these. And I'd love to see you then. Like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on Conspiracy Theories and Chill. The subscribe part was for YouTube. I archive these over on YouTube. Check out my YouTube channel, by the way, Me on Things and Stuff. That's a great way to support the show, and I would really appreciate it.